Let's start with the really, really difficult questions. Say and spell your name for me.
My name is Anna Kardashian, ANNAKARDASHYAN.
And you are how old?
I'm 18 years old.
And you go to which school?
I go to South Anchorage High School.
All right. And where were you born here in Alaska?
I was not, actually. I was born in Moscow, Russia. I'm an Armenian, and I moved here when I was 3.
All right. Sounds good. So, talk to me about. I was just telling my coworkers, I have to go. I'm missing one of our meetings, and I was like, I have to go down and talk to the student. They said, well, what has the student done? And I said, what hasn't this student done? Your principal sent me a nice, synopsis of stuff you've done in high school, but describe to me what you've been involved with over the last 4 years. What
Yeah,
have you been up to?
absolutely. One of the main things I've done, I was a United States Senate page. I worked in Washington, D.C. for 5 months during my junior year of high school. So I worked in the Senate. I supported any senators that needed support. And I also went to school there. So I had to wake up early at 5 a.m. and then go to school and then work in the Capitol. And that was a very defining moment, I think, in my academic journey. I've also been very involved in politics. I work with Arctic Encounter Symposium. It's a nonprofit organization that brings together a bunch of ambassadors, senators, world leaders, and other congressional members to talk about Arctic issues on the global scale. And so I'm in charge of sponsorship benefits for that. So I'm the sponsorship manager, and I also work with media. And so that has been a very wonderful experience because I learned how to integrate myself into not only Alaskan politics, but also Arctic politics on an international scale. I've also represented Alaska in many different spheres. I was a debater, so my freshman year of high school, I went to Policy Debate Nationals in Washington, D.C. I also represented Alaska as an ALA Girls State Senator. This is American Legion Auxiliary. Essentially, it was sort of like a mock Senate where a bunch of the top students come from across the country. They meet in Washington, D.C., and we discuss bills and resolutions, and we pass them or reject them. And so that was kind of a very eye-opening experience because now I wasn't just a Senate page looking at the senators. I was actually acting like a senator. And so, actually growing up, I didn't want to go into politics. I was very much a math kid. I was very reserved. I was very quiet. As an immigrant, I always had a big accent. And so I was kind of scared to open my mouth. But after joining debate and then fully integrating myself into these activities, I realized that, maybe there is a possibility that I go into politics or law in the future. And so it's really cool that I saw that detour kind of opened a new door in my life. Some other things I've been involved in, Anchorage Youth Court. It's also another nonprofit organization. I've worked as a lead attorney and a bailiff and a judge. I really like judging because it kind of puts my brain to the test whether or not I can be fully logical but also empathetic with the clients that come through the program. And so I've had this sort of mock lawyer experience. And then through that, I got an internship with a district court judge, and I also worked at the same basically office in the same courtroom that I did with Anchorage Youth Court. But in this case, I was actually reviewing casework and discussing with the judge, and so that was also a wonderful experience. But yeah, it's kind of like a culmination of many different things, but I guess that kind of sums up my high school experience. There's probably a few more things, but...
Your experience as a Senate page for Lisa Murkowski, as a young person kind of learning the political sphere, what was that like to get that, exposure up close and personal in Washington, D.C. about how our federal government works, from Lisa Murkowski's office? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I actually didn't work directly with her office. I was sponsored by her. I worked with her party, so I basically assisted any senators that were working with her. But I think it was a very interesting experience because I went in thinking that our country is a very polarized one, that senators can't sit together on both aisles and have civil conversations. But I quickly realized that that's not the case. Republicans are friends with Democrats. Democrats can sit down with Republicans. That it isn't as polarized as we sort of make it seem. And so that was very eye-opening. I also realized that they're real people. A lot of times they have very fun conversations amongst each other. And so it was kind of humbling to see that, they're actually very down to earth. I think it also taught me to have a growth mindset. A lot of the Senate pages that I worked with, they were either very Republican or very Democratic. And so for me, it was very important to keep an open mindset and to have conversations with both sides and to kind of understand what my own perspective would be. And so, yeah, it was a very eye-opening experience.
The Arctic Symposium, talk to me about, what are Arctic issues that Alaska is facing? What was your role in that? how did you get involved? I want to ask more about your civic engagement, but take me through the Arctic issues part of that. How did you get involved, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first became involved through debate, actually. My policy partner, she invited me to come to speak with Senator Murkowski at her Youth Climate Summit. And this summit was held for any youth throughout Alaska. We were the only 2 high schoolers, but everybody else there was a college student. And so we just talked about our experience and how climate change impacts Alaska over the past few years. Through the climate change lens, I learned that is just one sphere of Arctic politics. And through that, I actually met one of my current coworkers who works with the Arctic Encounter Symposium, and he told me to come join them and actually learn about what else there is to Arctic politics. And so Arctic politics isn't just climate change, it's also economic issues. So how can we balance out climate effects, but also create good economic outputs for our state and for any other Arctic countries? We also have a bunch of scientists come and speak at the Arctic Encounter Symposium, explaining different technologies that they're making, how they can make the Arctic region a stronger place, how we can assemble all these countries together to make them start working more effectively. And so, yeah, it's really just the geopolitical state of the Arctic region, but I first became involved through the climate change lens. And I actually worked as a national co-director of the High Schoolers for Carbon Dividends program, where I talked about carbon dividends and kind of how that tied into Arctic politics. And the reason that I think that climate change is an important part of Arctic politics, because we're such a cold state, we see the actual impacts of climate change. For example, when I went to Exit Glacier in 2016, I saw basically the entire glacier there. And then 3 years later, I came and only a third of it was there. And so just seeing how 2/3 of it melted, it was a very tangible effect.
I want to pivot to the important part, the classroom. I imagine your grades are pretty great. What's your grade point average looking like right now?
It's around a 4.5 GPA unweighted. Yeah.
Okay. Folks who've helped you out along the way to get to this point, who has been there, by your side as a young person, navigating the public school system and helping you succeed?
Yeah, for sure. I think I want to start off by saying thanks to my debate coach. I think without debate, I wouldn't have been as integrated into all of these curricular activities that I am today. And so even though debate wasn't really a class, it was a club that I went to a few times a week. And so, she was just wonderful. She definitely supported me through everything. And, whenever I had to ask help for essays, she was always there for me. So shout out Miss Ellie. Also, my French teacher has always been really supportive. Even when it didn't come to French, even when it came to just school in general, she was always there to listen. And so it was really nice to have an adult there that would stand by my side. Also, my counselor was amazing, Miss Barker. She always listened to me whenever I had any struggles or whenever I needed to change my schedule. She was always there to help me. And so that was also wonderful to have somebody that was super flexible with that. And then my English teacher, Miss Hawkins, she kind of taught me to think outside of the box in a way. A lot of times we held seminars and they weren't very traditional. They really forced you to think deeply about the literature that we were reading. And so that was also, a really good support system to have.
What are the classes you've enjoyed the most? What are the classes you're glad you never have to take again? Describe to me what that experience has been like, hitting the books at South High School.
I think for me, math, as I said before, I've always really liked math. I took pre-calculus my freshman year, and I took statistics my senior year. So I've done every single math essentially at South Anchorage. And every single math class that I've taken has been an amazing experience. I mean, obviously I got 5s on my AP test, so that just shows how strong the teachers were. So I think I definitely would take calculus again and statistics and pre-calc because all four, I guess, of those classes were wonderful, and I learned a lot, and I succeeded in the tests and everything. So those are definitely like my favorite genre of classes. A class that I would probably not want to take again is AP Chemistry. I think that you need a really good foundational, solid understanding of chemistry before you take that class. And I took it this year, actually. And, as a senior, it was kind of easier to slack off than I did before in previous years. And so I think that one was a little bit of a struggle. But every single class I've taken, I think has been a great experience for me. They haven't been like too difficult, but I mean, they've been difficult enough that I've done well on the AP exams, which I think is the intent of them.
Somebody who's as accomplished as you are, I can imagine that your parents have been a driving force, or your family. Talk to me about your family. What's it been like growing up in your household, and And do they push you to sports or to academics, or do they, what's it like growing up with your family?
Yeah, definitely. So coming from an immigrant family, hard work has always been instilled in me. I believe the American dream is something that I've always fought for, and my parents sacrificed a lot coming to this country, and they made it so that I could actually pursue my dreams and work hard towards my goals, and I will never take that for granted. I think that's something that is a driving force in everything I do. I try to make the most out of every resource I have and every situation I'm put into, because I know that I was sort of brought to this country for that reason, and I feel like it's my obligation to do the best I can as an American citizen, and so that's something I really appreciate. Growing up in my household, my parents only really spoke to me in Russian and Armenian, and so I had to learn English alongside with them, essentially, and so I think that's actually something I'm very grateful for, because first of all, I mean, I can say I'm trilingual, but secondly, I think learning English was sort of a trial and tribulation that led me to where I am today. And in a way, it's taught me the importance of speaking up for people that can't speak up for themselves, because I know what it's like to not be able to fully articulate your thoughts. And so I think in a way, they've actually inspired me to go into law because of that reason. But yeah, I'm always grateful for my parents. Thank you, Mom and Dad, Alex and Armenia. You've always been by my side. And yeah.
So you were talking about how your parents have fought for your ability to, chase the American dream here in Anchorage. Speaking of fighting, you're a Taekwondo national champion. Tell me about that. How did you get started with that, and why stick with it long enough to win a national title?
Yeah, so my dad always thought it was important that my sister and I, as girls, we should be able to protect ourselves. And it was really important for my parents that we knew how to protect ourselves whenever we were put into unsafe situations. And so it kind of started as just learning how to be out in the world and defend ourselves. But then it turned into something greater. I realized that I had a real passion for it. I think of Taekwondo sort of like a chess game. It's very much an art. You have to be very strategic about it. You have to prepare for it mentally. And so I kind of really fell in love with the art of martial arts. And so I guess through my passion, my parents realized that, okay, this is something she's serious about. Maybe we should start putting in some time and effort into it. And so my parents would drive me there basically every single day after school throughout my entire elementary experience. And I realized that, I'm becoming a state champion. Maybe I should try to go for nationals. And so when I believe I was 6 or 7, I went for my first national championship, and I got 3rd place for both Pumse and sparring. These are the 2 different types of Taekwondo. And I thought to myself, I was like, I think I can do better than 3rd place. So the next year I went and I won 2 seconds. So from 2/3 to 2 seconds, I was like, okay, no, this is not enough. I need to keep working. Like, I'm so close. And then the year after that, I went and I finally won my national championship. I think that was like one of the most important moments in my life, because I realized that, yeah, if you set your mind to something, you can definitely accomplish it. You just have to put in the work and the energy. And that year that I won the national championship, I put in so much more time and effort into what I was doing, because I realized that I was getting so close. And I always think to myself, like, second is the first loser, like, I have to win. And I think that determination is kind of something I see in my academics too now, because of Taekwondo. So
how old were you when you won the national championship?
I was 9 years old.
And do you still do Taekwondo, or did you say, I have won, I'm going out on top?
No, I kept doing Taekwondo for a few years after that, but then my team moved to a different city, and so it was difficult for us to drive, and during that time I was getting more involved in debate, and so I kind of wanted to do some other exploration of intellectual curiosity, and so I kind of stopped doing Taekwondo at that moment in time, but I'm actually going to Stanford this fall, and they have a really good Taekwondo team, so my intention is that I at least join the club. I don't know if I'm going to go in professionally again, but I'd love to join the club.
I want to hear about what you're going to do in school after high school. You plan to go to Stanford? Tell me, what do you plan to study? How'd you come to that decision?
Yeah, so I plan to study political science and data science. I think that Stanford has a very interdisciplinary approach in the way that they teach their curriculum. So I really appreciated that, because I didn't want to be just tied down to political science. I really wanted some sort of techie, STEM-y background as well, and so that was really important for me. The decision, to be honest, it was very difficult. I had to decide between, I guess I'll say, Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, and MIT. And so I went on a college trip. I went to MIT and Harvard. I toured them at the same time because they're both in Boston. And I realized I really liked Harvard, but I liked the graduate school more than the undergrad. And I decided that maybe I should consider Stanford. So I flew to Stanford right after that. And the atmosphere, the weather, the location, the people, everything just spoke to me. And I feel like this is someplace that I really have to be. I kind of had that gut feeling when I entered the campus. And so I realized that Stanford is where I belong. And I'm super excited because they have so many clubs and so many wonderful sports and extracurriculars that I can join. And I already have some friends. I actually did the Coca-Cola scholarship earlier this year. And basically half of the kids there are going to Stanford. So it's really nice that I have a little community there.
Very cool. Well, we're coming down to our last couple of questions. But I want to follow up on that. Mr. Allman sends me the email and it says, you've been accepted to MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Yale. I don't remember what the other one was. Princeton. For somebody to be accepted to one of those schools, I'm sure would be a life-changing moment. For you to get accepted to the 5 best schools in the United, what was it like opening those letters and realizing that, your hard work had gotten to a point that it was going to pay off for your post-secondary education? What was it like kind of coming to that realization?
So to be honest, I applied to Stanford Early Action. So I got in December, and after that, I didn't really want to apply to other schools because I was like, okay, Stanford's my top choice at this point. Like, I don't think it's worth spending my energy. And I was actually on vacation during that time by the beach, and I was like, okay, maybe I should put in some hard work. It kind of felt wrong not to apply and to see if I can get into other places. So I spent around 3 full days just writing these essays for these applications, and I just sent them off, not really thinking about anything. I didn't really think it was going to lead to me actually getting accepted into them. But once I started opening them, I was just completely shocked. I genuinely did not expect myself to get into all. I thought maybe I'd get into 2 out of 5, but 5 out of 5 was just something absolutely out of this world. I was just beaming from happiness. But also it made me realize that maybe I should reconsider my decision. But I'm kind of happy that I went through this entire process of getting into all 5 and then still ending up choosing the one that I started with, because it made me even more confident in my decision. But yeah, it was just such an amazing moment. It made me realize that if you really want something, if you really go after it, you can accomplish it. And that's honestly humbling to me because it makes me realize that I should keep going no matter what. I shouldn't just stop here because hard work really, truly does pay off.
Tell me about what career you want, your education at Stanford to lead into. What do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah, for sure. So, as I mentioned before, I wanted kind of the STEM background of data science. And the reason for that is because I want to go in particularly intellectual property litigation. And because of the rise of artificial intelligence, I think it's important for people to be able to patent their work more. And so that's kind of a very niche sector of law that I want to go to. And I think Stanford will give me the correct foundation for that.
You're an athlete, you're a scholar. For somebody who's about to send their kid to a high school, whether it's South High School or East or wherever, here in the Anchorage School District, you're just about to complete this 4-year journey of high school and obviously have had a lot of success. What advice would you have for any freshman who's about to start high school in Anchorage in the fall? What kind of wisdom would you have?
Keep an open mind. Don't be afraid to fail. I think that taking risks are the reason I'm here today. If I didn't take the risk and move away from my family for 5 months in the Senate Page program, I think the trajectory of my life would be completely different. Really jump out any opportunity that is given to you. I never really thought that I'd go into climate change or climate justice at all. It wasn't really anything that I thought about before, but because I did debate and my policy speaking kind of came in, I realized that, this opportunity is right in front of me. Why not just take it? Why not just experience it? And so I think the main thing is really just be open, just be a sponge, be a sponge to knowledge, be a sponge to information, be open to new opportunities, and don't be afraid to fail. I think it's always better to try and to fail than to never try at all.
Very well said. Another follow-up that I just want to get out there before we finish up is, obviously you've been very civically involved. You understand the government probably better than most adults walking around there. Do you have aspirations to, seek elected office? Is that something you want to do? There are a lot of people who are civically involved who say, I want to be on the backside of it, be a city manager or comptroller or somebody who does the work of the city and isn't elected. But is that something you're interested in at all?
Going off the theme of an open mind, I'm definitely open to it. I don't know right now. I really just want to see where life takes me. It might be a potential area that I might go into. Again, I'm definitely open to it. I think it would be an interesting experience, but we'll see where life takes me.
What are you going to miss about going to school in Anchorage, about living in Anchorage, about the Anchorage School District? What are you going to miss about South High School when you go off to Stanford and you're, building your life as a mogul or icon or whatever? What are you going to miss about being here?
I think by far my friends. I think my friends have been a constant source of my inspiration. They've always consoled me whenever I felt down. They gave me advice when I needed it. That's definitely the biggest aspect I'll miss. I guess in terms of Alaska, I'll miss the nature for sure. I'm also a runner. I really like the trails here, so that's definitely an aspect I'll miss. And then obviously my family. I'll be away from family again. But yeah.
Anna, I want to ask you to speak for your class for a moment. What's unique about, your classmates at South High and this group of students who are about to graduate and go out into the world? Tell me about them. What's unique? What's different? What sets you guys apart?
Yeah, I think we were actually the first class at South High after the whole COVID situation that kind of had a normal experience. And that was really wonderful because we were kind of the first class that had all the football games, had homecoming. I mean, our freshman year, we were all in masks, but we definitely had many more normalities than the classes before us. And so I think we kind of set the precedent for future classes. In terms of what sets us apart, I mean, we've been through a lot and we were able to maintain our strength. I mean, we've seen the world change around us and the political situation around us and COVID, nothing really seemed to affect our friendships. And that's something that I think is really important.
Last question is just open-ended. Anything else that we haven't talked about that you feel like is newsworthy, noteworthy, important that you want folks who are going to listen to this interview or read it, want them to know? Anything else?
I think just enjoy the journey. Don't do everything for the accomplishments. I think this is a big piece of advice that has stuck with me. If I did everything just to get into these top schools, I think I'd feel pretty empty inside. It's really been a beautiful journey because I've taken in every moment and I've made relationships along the way. I made friendships along the way. And so really enjoy the journey. Don't do everything just for the end goal because at the end of the day, it really is the journey that makes up your life.
Awesome.